Think for a moment about the possibility that the life you are living right now, with all its struggles, joys, mistakes, and lessons, is not your first and may not be your last. Imagine that your soul has walked through countless lifetimes, wearing many different bodies, in an endless cycle that seems impossible to escape. Now consider this. What if the ancient wisdom of Thoth, the great Atlantean priest-king and keeper of sacred mysteries, holds the hidden key to break free from this eternal wheel of reincarnation? And what if the final truth you're about to hear is the most powerful of them all, one capable of transforming the way you understand life, death, and the destiny of your soul? Welcome to this journey into the heart of one of the greatest secrets ever whispered in the temples of old. A mystery so profound that only the most persistent seekers of truth have dared to pursue it. Today, we will uncover the concealed teachings attributed to Thoth and the Book of Wisdom, a text said to contain not only the nature of the universe, but also the path of liberation for the soul. Stay with me until the very end, because the last revelation we will explore is the most important of all, the one that has the potential to change your spiritual path forever. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and share this video with those who are also searching for deeper truths. Comment below what you think about reincarnation. Do you believe it is a trap, or do you see it as a divine opportunity for growth? Your interaction not only supports this work, but also helps us continue to dive into these sacred mysteries. And I promise you, as we walk together through this knowledge, you will encounter revelations that may shake your understanding of existence itself. Thoth, known to the Egyptians as the god of wisdom, writing, and hidden knowledge, and to the Greeks as Hermes Trismegistus, has long been regarded as a bridge between humanity and the divine. He is often depicted with the head of an ibis, or sometimes as a baboon, both symbols of his sacred connection to the moon and to knowledge. But behind the mythological images lies something much deeper, an initiate of the highest order, a guardian of wisdom who transcended his own mortality. Ancient traditions speak of him not as a mere deity, but as a master who once walked the earth, guiding humanity during the fall of Atlantis and carrying its wisdom into the land of Kem, the Egypt of antiquity. Among the most mysterious legacies attributed to Thoth is the so-called Book of Thoth, a text said to contain powerful truths about the soul, the universe, and the hidden mechanics of life and death. Some scholars have connected this book to the famed Emerald Tablets, texts that contain cryptic teachings about cosmic laws, the unity of existence, and the path of ascension. While mainstream historians dismiss these writings as myth, seekers of truth throughout the centuries, from alchemists of the Renaissance to modern esoteric thinkers, have recognized in these texts a profound map of the soul's journey. But what exactly does this hidden book teach about reincarnation? According to the wisdom attributed to Thoth, reincarnation is not simply a random cycle of birth and death, nor is it an eternal punishment. Instead, it is a process through which the soul learns, evolves, and purifies itself. Yet Thoth also warns that without true awakening, the soul can remain trapped indefinitely, repeating lifetimes in ignorance, forgetting who it really is. This is the prison of the unawakened, the endless wheel of samsara described in Eastern traditions and mirrored in the Hermetic understanding of existence. Think about that for a moment. How many times have you felt a strange sense of déjà vu, as if you had lived a moment before? How many times have you met someone and felt you had known them forever? Could these be fragments of memory from previous incarnations, whispering to you that your soul has walked this earth before? And if so, wouldn't you want to know how to escape this cycle, how to rise above the veil of forgetfulness and step into true freedom? Thoth's teachings suggest that liberation begins with knowledge, not ordinary knowledge, but gnosis, the direct realization of your divine essence. As long as the soul identifies only with the body, the mind, and the material world, it remains bound to the cycle of rebirth. But once it awakens to its true nature, an eternal spark of the divine, the chains begin to loosen. The Book of Thoth, if it truly existed, would then serve as a guide, showing how to refine consciousness, how to overcome illusion, and how to transcend the gravitational pull of material existence. Many traditions echo this idea. The Buddhist texts describe nirvana as the state beyond birth and death. The Hindu scriptures speak of moksha, liberation from the wheel of samsara. And in the Hermetic writings attributed to Hermes Trismegistus, we find the same teaching, that man is both mortal and immortal, and that only by knowing the immortal self can one rise above the cycle of reincarnation. This is not coincidence. It points to a universal truth hidden in different traditions, but converging on the same reality. But here lies the question: why would such powerful knowledge be hidden? Why would Thoth conceal the path of liberation instead of sharing it openly with humanity? The answer, according to many esoteric thinkers, is that truth must be protected from misuse. Wisdom in the wrong hands can lead not to liberation, but to deeper bondage. Just as fire can both warm and destroy, sacred knowledge must be handled with reverence, responsibility, and purity of intent. Only those who truly seek with humility and devotion are ready to receive it. As we move deeper into this exploration, I will reveal to you 3 core principles that Thoth's hidden book is said to contain about the cycle of reincarnation and the path to escape it. Each principle will unfold like a key, unlocking a door in the labyrinth of existence. And the last key, the final truth, is the most powerful of all, for it holds the secret of ultimate liberation. So stay with me until the end, for what you are about to hear has the potential to shift your entire understanding of reality. But before we continue, let me ask you, have you ever felt that life itself is like a lesson repeating over and over until you finally understand it? Could it be that the mistakes and challenges you face are not punishments, but clues, lessons designed by the universe to prepare you for liberation? If that thought resonates with you, leave a comment below, because your journey and your insights matter deeply in this unfolding conversation. To truly grasp the path that Thoth points toward, we must first understand the depth of the cycle itself. Reincarnation is not simply a rebirth of the body, it is a journey of consciousness, where the soul continues to weave its story through countless lifetimes. Each birth is a chance to resolve the unfinished, to learn the lessons we once ignored, to balance the scales of karma that we ourselves have set in motion. This is why some lives seem easier, while others are marked by profound struggle. The universe reflects the lessons that the soul still needs to master. Thoth describes the soul as a traveler, descending from higher realms into the dense vibration of the material world. The body becomes its vehicle, but the soul often forgets its true origin. This forgetting is not an accident, it is part of the process. Imagine an actor stepping onto a stage who must fully embrace the role he is playing. If he remembered that he was only acting, the story would lose its impact. In the same way, the soul takes on new roles, new bodies, families, and circumstances, until it awakens and remembers that it is more than the role it plays. But here is the paradox. While reincarnation allows growth, it can also become a trap. Without awakening, the soul repeats the same patterns endlessly, like a student who fails the same exam again and again. Thoth's wisdom tells us that liberation requires awareness. It requires remembering the greater reality beyond the illusion, and this remembering begins with the pursuit of truth, with the courage to seek knowledge that lies beyond the material world. Ancient teachings describe 3 main veils that bind the soul to reincarnation. The first is ignorance, the inability to recognize the divine essence within. As long as you see yourself only as a body and a personality, you are bound to return. The second is desire, the attachment to pleasures, possessions, and identities that chain the soul to earthly existence. And the third is fear, the terror of death, which keeps us clinging to the temporary and blinds us to the eternal. Thoth's hidden book offers the antidote to these veils: knowledge of self, mastery over desire, and courage in the face of death. Now, let us pause and reflect. How often do you find yourself attached to something that you know is fleeting? A possession, a relationship, even an identity that one day will fade? And how often have you feared the unknown, fearing change or the thought of death? Could it be that these fears are the very shackles keeping your soul bound to the wheel of rebirth? If you feel these questions stirring something within you, write in the comments, what do you think holds the soul most tightly, ignorance, desire, or fear? One of the most fascinating aspects of the Thothian tradition is its resonance with other philosophies. The teachings of the Buddha, who spoke of suffering and liberation, mirror these ideas closely. The Bhagavad Gita of India, in which Krishna instructs Arjuna on the eternal nature of the soul, echoes the same truth. The body perishes, but the soul does not. and the Hermetic texts, especially the Corpus Hermeticum, emphasize that man is a dual being, mortal in body but immortal in spirit. These convergences cannot be dismissed as mere coincidence. They suggest a universal truth that transcends culture, geography, and time. But Thoth adds another layer, one that is especially intriguing. He speaks of the soul's journey not only in terms of moral lessons, but also in terms of cosmic alignment. According to the Emerald Tablets, the soul vibrates at a frequency, and upon death it gravitates to the plane that matches its vibration. If the soul is heavy with ignorance and desire, it sinks back to the material world, bound again to flesh. If it refines itself, however, by seeking truth, cultivating wisdom, and living in harmony with higher laws, it ascends to realms of greater light. This is not punishment nor reward. It is resonance. You are drawn to where you belong, to where your frequency leads you. Think of it like music. A string resonates when struck by a note of the same frequency. Likewise, your soul resonates with the realm that mirrors its inner state. Liberation, therefore, is not about escaping some external prison, but about transforming the inner vibration so that you are no longer pulled back into cycles of ignorance. This is why Thoth emphasizes knowledge, self-mastery, and alignment with universal law. To escape reincarnation, one must become attuned to the higher harmonies of existence. This teaching challenges us to live consciously. Every thought, every action, every intention shapes the vibration of the soul. If you live in anger, fear, and attachment, you weigh yourself down. If you cultivate wisdom, compassion, and awareness, you rise. So let me ask you directly, if today were your last day in this body, what frequency would you carry into the next realm? Would you rise to higher planes of light, or would you find yourself drawn back to the earth, repeating the same lessons once more? There are also deeper mysteries within Thoth's writings that hint at advanced practices for liberation. Some texts describe the power of sacred sound, the use of specific vibrational words or chants that can align the soul with divine frequencies. Others speak of the art of conscious death, where the initiate leaves the body with full awareness, guiding their soul beyond the lower planes. Such practices were not given to the masses, but reserved for those initiated into the temples, those who had proven their readiness through discipline, devotion, and purity. Scholars like Manly P. Hall, in his monumental work, The Secret Teachings of All Ages, emphasize that the true mysteries of life and death have always been guarded, transmitted only through symbols and allegories. Why? Because the unprepared mind would distort or misuse them. Imagine giving a child a powerful weapon. Without wisdom, it becomes dangerous. The same is true with spiritual knowledge. Only those who are ready, who have purified their intent, can use it for liberation. And this brings us back to you. The very fact that you are watching this and listening deeply shows that your soul is searching. Perhaps in this lifetime, you are closer than ever to awakening. Perhaps the questions burning in your heart are the very signs that you are ready to step beyond the cycle. And remember, the most powerful revelation is still ahead, waiting at the end of our journey together in this video. So stay with me, for we are about to uncover the first of the 3 hidden keys that Thoth's book reveals, keys that open the path out of the labyrinth of reincarnation. The first key is coming, and it may change the way you see every moment of your life from this day forward. The first of the 3 keys that Thoth's hidden teachings present is the knowledge of self. At first glance, this might seem simple, even obvious, but in truth, it is the foundation of liberation. To know oneself in the deepest sense is to realize that you are not the body, not the mind, not even the fleeting emotions or roles you play in this world. You are the eternal observer, the divine spark, the consciousness that experiences but is not limited by any single lifetime. Thoth teaches that as long as a soul identifies with its temporary form, it will remain bound to the cycle of reincarnation. Think of the actor who forgets that he is playing a role. He becomes so lost in the drama of the play that he cannot leave the stage, forced to repeat the performance endlessly. But the moment he remembers who he really is, the illusion loses its power. In the same way, when the soul awakens to its eternal essence, it can finally step off the stage of repeated lifetimes. This knowledge is not mere intellectual understanding, it is direct experience. Mystics and initiates throughout history have sought practices to pierce the veil and taste this truth directly. The Hermetic writings speak of contemplation and meditation, methods by which the mind is stilled and the eternal self is revealed. In Eastern traditions, yogis sit in silence for years, disciplining the body and mind to glimpse the reality of the Atman, the true self beyond form. In both cases, the essence is the same. Liberation begins when you no longer confuse the mask with the face. But here is the challenge. Modern life distracts us at every turn. We are constantly pulled into identities, possessions, and endless desires. We define ourselves by our jobs, our appearance, our social roles. We fear losing them, forgetting that these are nothing more than costumes in a play. Imagine standing before a mirror. You see your reflection, but you are not the reflection. You are the one looking. In the same way, all the forms of this world are reflections, while you are the one who sees beyond them. This realization is the first step toward breaking the cycle. Now let us move to the second key which deepens this awakening: mastery of desire. Thoth reveals that desire is one of the strongest chains binding the soul to the earth. Every craving, every attachment creates a tether, pulling the soul back to physical existence. Desire itself is not evil, it is part of the natural world. But when desire controls you, when it dictates your choices, it ensures that your vibration remains tied to the lower realms. Think about your own life. How many choices are driven by desire, whether for pleasure, wealth, recognition, or power? And when those desires are not fulfilled, how much suffering do they bring? Thoth's wisdom shows us that to escape reincarnation, the soul must learn to rise above these attachments. This does not mean rejecting the world or living in misery. Rather, it means mastering desire instead of being mastered by it. You can enjoy beauty without clinging to it. You can use resources without being enslaved by them. You can love deeply without making another your chain. This is balance, the middle path that allows the soul to remain free. Philosophers like Plato hinted at this in his teachings on the forms, suggesting that earthly pleasures are shadows of a greater, eternal reality. The mystics of the Sufi tradition sang of a love so divine that all earthly desires paled in comparison. And in the Buddhist path, desire is identified as the root of suffering. Once again, different traditions echo the same truth. Liberation requires mastery over the lower pulls of existence. Imagine a bird tied to the ground by ropes. No matter how strong its wings, it cannot fly until the ropes are released. Each desire, each attachment is one of those ropes. When you cut them through wisdom, discipline, and surrender, your soul begins to rise. Ask yourself now, what are the ropes in your life? What do you cling to so tightly that if taken away, it would shake your entire sense of identity? Reflect on this, because naming these attachments is the first step to freeing yourself from them. The third key, which Thoth identifies as the most difficult, is mastery of fear, especially the fear of death. Fear keeps the soul bound, because it blinds us to the truth of our eternal nature. Death appears as the great end, the terrifying void, and so we cling desperately to the temporary. But Thoth reminds us that death is not the end, it is a doorway. Those who awaken see that what dies is only the form, while the essence continues. To conquer fear is to step boldly into the unknown, knowing that your true self cannot be destroyed. In the Emerald Tablets, Thoth speaks of descending into the halls of Amenti, the realm of the dead, and returning with wisdom. This allegory teaches us that only by confronting death consciously can the soul transcend it. The initiate who dies before dying, who confronts mortality while still alive, becomes free from its grip. Many esoteric schools had practices designed to simulate death, guiding initiates into altered states where they experienced leaving the body and returning, thereby dissolving the fear that binds most souls. Fear is not only about death, though. It is the shadow behind all attachments and ignorance. We fear loss, change, and the unknown, but every fear is ultimately rooted in the illusion that we are limited, fragile beings. The truth is that you are eternal, indestructible consciousness. When this realization becomes unshakable, fear loses its power, and when fear is gone, the soul is free to ascend. Now reflect for a moment. What do you fear most? Is it the end of your body, the loss of loved ones, or the unknown that lies beyond? What if those fears are illusions, shadows cast by ignorance? What if liberation begins the moment you no longer let fear control your path? I invite you to write in the comments what fear you feel is hardest to overcome, because naming it is the first step toward transcending it. These three keys, knowledge of self, mastery of desire, and mastery of fear, form the foundation of the path to liberation. They are not abstract ideas, but living truths, meant to be practiced in daily life. And yet, as powerful as they are, Thoth's hidden wisdom points to something even greater. There is a final secret, one that unites these principles and opens the ultimate doorway beyond reincarnation. It is the last and most powerful revelation, and we will uncover it together in the final part of this journey. Stay with me, for what you are about to hear may be the single most important truth your soul has ever encountered. We have walked through the three keys of Thoth's hidden teachings: knowledge of self, mastery of desire, and mastery of fear. These are the foundations, the pillars upon which liberation rests. But Thoth's greatest revelation goes beyond these. It is the unifying principle, the final key that dissolves the cycle of reincarnation once and for all. That secret is union with the divine. Throughout all of history, seekers have longed for this union. They have called it by many names: enlightenment, ascension, nirvana, moksha, the kingdom of heaven, the great work. Yet the essence remains the same. When the soul realizes that it is not separate from the source, but one with it, the illusion of duality vanishes. And with the end of duality, the cycle of birth and death collapses. For what is there to reincarnate when you have returned to the eternal? Thoth's teachings emphasize that the soul is a spark of the divine flame. Just as a single wave is not separate from the ocean, so the soul is not separate from the infinite. But ignorance makes us believe otherwise. We think we are isolated beings, lost in a hostile universe, struggling to survive. This illusion of separation is the root of all reincarnation. The moment it is dissolved, liberation is attained. To escape the cycle is not to run away from existence, but to awaken fully into the truth that existence itself is divine. The Hermetic texts describe this as the Great Return. In the Corpus Hermeticum, Hermes Trismegistus writes that the purified soul rises through the spheres, casting off every illusion until it merges with the One. In the Emerald Tablets, Thoth speaks of becoming one with the light, transcending time and space. And in the teachings of mystics across cultures, from the Sufis who spoke of annihilation in God, to the Christian mystics who longed for divine union, the pattern is the same. Liberation comes not by rejecting the world, but by realizing its unity with the divine. Now pause and imagine this truth for yourself. Imagine feeling no separation between you and the stars, between you and the earth, between you and every living being. Imagine living with the unshakable awareness that all is one, and that you are both the observer and the observed, both the drop and the ocean. What fear could remain in such a state? What desire could bind you? What ignorance could cloud your vision? In that moment of realization, reincarnation has no purpose, because the soul has completed its journey. It has awakened fully to its eternal home. But this final key is not reached by intellect alone. It requires transformation of the heart. Thoth's wisdom is clear. Knowledge must be lived, not just studied. To know yourself, you must practice awareness. To master desire, you must practice discipline. To overcome fear, you must practice courage. And to achieve union with the divine, you must practice love, the universal force that dissolves separation and reveals the hidden unity of all things. Love is the highest frequency, the ultimate vibration that draws the soul upward. When you love without condition, you align yourself with the divine essence, and liberation unfolds naturally. The great mystic Rumi once said, "Love is the bridge between you and everything." And this is precisely the essence of Thoth's final teaching. Love bridges the illusion of separation. Love is the final fire that burns away ignorance, desire, and fear. Love is the light that reveals the truth of the soul. When the initiate enters into this state, the cycle of reincarnation is no longer necessary. The lessons have been learned, the purpose fulfilled. The soul rests in eternal union, free at last. Now reflect on your own life. Where do you feel the presence of love guiding you? Is it in your compassion for others, your awe at the beauty of nature, your silent moments of connection to something greater than yourself? These moments are glimpses of union, hints of the truth that you are already divine. The path to liberation is not about becoming something new, it is about remembering what you have always been. This is why Thoth's hidden book, whether literal or symbolic, carries such power. It is not merely an ancient text, it is a mirror, pointing you back to your own eternal nature. The secrets it contains are not external mysteries, but inner truths, waiting for you to awaken to them. Knowledge of self, mastery of desire, mastery of fear, all of these lead to the final revelation that you are one with the divine. And once this truth is lived, the cycle of reincarnation loses its grip forever. So the question I leave with you now is this: are you ready to awaken? Are you ready to live with the awareness that you are not separate, but divine, eternal, infinite? If so, then the path of liberation is already open before you. Every breath, every thought, every act of love brings you closer to remembering. The journey is not outside, it is within. As we close this exploration, let me remind you, the last and most powerful revelation is not hidden in a book or temple. It is hidden within your own soul. You carry the key to liberation already. Thoth's wisdom simply points you toward it. The rest is your path to walk. So I invite you now, if this message has touched your heart, if you feel the stirring of remembrance within you, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and share this with others who are also seeking truth. Comment below what part of this journey resonated most with you, because your voice is part of the great conversation of awakening. And above all, remember, you are not bound unless you choose to be. The cycle of reincarnation can be broken, and the final freedom is yours to claim. For as Hermes Trismegistus taught, as above, so below, as within, so without. The secret of the universe is the secret of your own soul, and the greatest mystery of all is not far away, but closer than your own breath. Seek it, awaken to it, and you will be free. Thanks for looking.